What truly makes you irresistible to a man? Today, we're going to uncover the secrets that most women never hear about. Hi, I'm Jill Collins, and today I'm thrilled to welcome back Jonathon Aslay, renowned relationships coach for midlife women and also a dear friend. He's back once again to break down the myths and reveal the real turn-on that can transform your intimate life, especially in midlife. From emotional connections to physical desires, Jonathon and I break down what it really takes to have a loving relationship and to have a strong connection. So let's dive in.
We men are takers because you guys are such great givers. Women expect to be romanced. You expect us to climb to the highest room of the tallest tower. But I will tell you that very few people really demonstrate love from the understanding, agreeable without being a doormat. Healthy boundaries is also making agreements with your partner. Who gives a crap what men want? Who gives a crap what women want? What's most important? Finding it within yourself. There, I said, mic drop, we're done.
What do you think men find truly irresistible in women? That's what we want to know. What's the one?
So I want to start by saying what I'm about to share goes for both genders. So it's not singular to what men find irresistible in women, because there's this narrative that men operate differently than women. And to some degree, biologically, we do have differences. But at a core level, we're actually close to being rather the same. So what I'm about to share isn't gender based. Okay, I just want to share that. But one of the fundamental desires for human beings, I'm going to use the term human beings a lot in this conversation, is to be in relationship with somebody who has an agreeable personality. Let me give the inverse to that. Have you ever, and I don't know if Jill, you've ever experienced this, but I've experienced women, or people, I should say, men and women, who have rather disagreeable personalities. They're always the opposite of what you say. And now, I suspect some people stay in relationships with those people because it's actually a wound that they experienced in childhood, meaning it was very familiar to them because maybe one or both of their parents had a disagreeable personality. And so they were witnessing this disagreeable personality. And in that disagreeable personality, they meet somebody who also has a disagreeable personality. And they're just familiar with that. They're just used to that combative kind of method of communication. For those human beings who have done some level of personal development, self-help, and spiritual work, really has done introspective work, they've healed childhood wounds, adult traumas, they are working on themselves to be, for lack of a better word, a better human being, okay, a more evolved human being, an awakened human being, a conscious human being, whatever that means to someone, okay? When a person reaches that level, which I suspect is your audience who follows your channel because you gear yourself to that, they would prefer to be in a relationship with a person that has an agreeable personality versus that disagreeable personality. So that's
I think that's what we all want, isn't it? We all want it. We kind of all want agreeability, but at the same time, what I've noticed, and I get that, I'm going to challenge you a little bit on that, because I think even for myself, when I was younger, I think I found it a lot easier to be in relationship with men because I was more agreeable. Today, there's a difference between being agreeable, which is like fawning, it's a trauma response, versus being open, right? Because I think we can be open-minded, considerate of our partner, but agreeable, when I hear that, it makes me think, just do whatever I say and don't question it. Now, I know you don't mean that, but I want to clarify so people understand, because I don't want you to be misunderstood, because I think I think a lot of men want women who will challenge and who have a mind of their own, but are easy to get along with, and that they aren't just looking for, like, automatically wanting the opposite, saying the opposite just to have a conflict. Is that what you mean?
First off, you're absolutely right there. What I didn't clarify, and I'm glad that you actually brought it up because it's actually in my notes right in front of me. Agreeable without being a doormat. It's agreeable without being a doormat. In other words, it's not agreeing to everything. That's different. But having an easygoing, agreeable nature is more attractive, whether you're a man or a woman, than those that actually probably are living a bit in their wounds. Because I say this not as an expert in studying human behavior at a scientific level. I study it from an anecdotal level. What I've observed is a lot of human beings are living in victim consciousness. They don't take ownership of their own experiences. They have a tendency to blame or complain or point the finger, that sort of thing. So those human beings tend to have a little bit more disagreeable personality. When I talk about easygoing, agreeable personality, absolutely one of the fundamentals of is to have solid boundaries in your life. I'm a big proponent of having boundaries. That's actually one of the traits that is very attractive to that evolved person. Like when an individual can stand up for themselves and say, that doesn't feel right to me. Okay. And again, it's coming from the me perspective, not the sense of this is truth. This is my truth versus the truth. Many people prefer to look at a circumstance and say, no, this is the absolute truth. No, well, that's just your truth versus that someone else has their own truth.
Can I just jump in real quick? Because I hear what you're saying with regards to boundaries, and I've heard this so many times that I get complimented on, is when I speak my truth and say I'm not comfortable with that, or I really like that, or I suggest and I'm proactive in offering something and not, like you said, just being a doormat to, oh, I don't care, whatever you want to do. I think an evolved man, a conscious man will, and this is what we have to distinguish, is we are looking, ladies and women, whoever's watching, men, whoever's watching this, we're looking for people ideally who are conscious, who are evolved, who are ready, who are in it to win it, who are committed to finding a partner. This is not people who are playing the game. And if they're playing a game, this is not the conversation for you. We are really trying to the idea, just to set the parameters there. But I think it's really important that we do have that. We are saying what we want. And when you say that, I think men find that irresistible versus the doormat can actually, in today's world, be a turnoff, don't you think?
I hope you're enjoying today's episode. And if you are, consider subscribing. 93% of you that listen to this podcast regularly have not yet subscribed. If you like this channel, can you do me a quick favor and hit the subscribe button? It helps this channel more than you know. And the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests get. Thank you.
Now you bring something up. So when somebody is agreeable to everything you state, then it's missing on some level. I think we humans have a propensity to take advantage of that. And worse, we can dismiss that person to some level because we can take advantage of that person. Like I think it opens the door to bad behavior when somebody is just constantly agreeable and has no boundaries. So, as I said earlier, agreeable without being a doormat, one. Having healthy boundaries is also making agreements with your partner. It's like saying, you know what, I'm not really up for that. Would you be up for this? In other words, offering an alternative where you can come to an agreement with something. The more evolved, conscious man or woman, okay, because I want to be clear that when I say what's my coaching is designed to talk to women about men. So it's almost always that conversation. And at the beginning of every video, I say these go both ways. A more evolved, conscious, awakened human being, whatever you call it, self-aware, prefers a co-creative type of relationship. A co-creative type of relationship. Gary Zukav wrote a great book called Spiritual Partnership, which is really about co-creating a relationship with another human being. That conscious, aware, evolved, whatever you want to call it, wants that collaborative type of relationship with someone. And through collaboration, you're going to have differences. And we welcome someone else's differences, but if they are a doormat or they're so overtly agreeable and they don't make a request for what they want, the evolved, conscious, awakened person, again, I keep like saying in all those different formats or modalities, that's not what that person wants. They want collaborative, not control. Like, it's interesting because I watch a lot of YouTube content out there that's really trying to revisit an old narrative of what's called one up, one down. I'm the man, I'm the hierarchy, you're the woman, you're submissive to me. There's so much content out there That's encouraging. That's why we got into a Me Too mess, by the way, in the last half a decade. Like, I think when we have a collaborative relationship, it's a lot more powerful.
Okay. Okay. So along those lines, when I'm thinking that, how do women then feel, is it more important for men? Let me get it right. Is it more important for men to feel an emotional connection or a physical attraction? I assume it's both, but talk about that. Is physical attraction the first thing that comes up for men? Should we be preparing ourselves and have like, this is a must have, or how important is physical attraction to men?
Again, we're talking about the difference between a person that's ruled by their libido. So there's significant percentage of men that rule by their libido. And there's this narrative that's been said for years. A man falls in love through sex and a woman gives sex hoping for love. I didn't coin that, and that's an abbreviated version of it. I think there are plenty of men that look at, I consider myself a conscious, evolved, awakened, aware type of guy, but I'm still driven by my penis. It's almost innately biological for me. Or it is biological for me on some level. And at the same time, it's like the devil and the angel on your shoulder. The devil wants sex, and the angels, I want that emotionally, connected relationship. So sometimes they're at odds with one another to some degree. A healthy, evolved person isn't ruled by their libido. They're not hyper focused in their libido. They're not, it's there, it exists, it's part of passion, it's a part of lovemaking, it's a part of real connection with another human being, but it doesn't override that desire for not only an emotional connection, but I think most human beings are thirsty for deep friendship with their partner. Like when you think of your best friend, you think of the person you can tell most anything to. That's what human beings in romantic level desire when they've shed the egoic pieces of the expectations and the imprinting and like socialization. All of that stuff plays a part into the quagmire of a human being. And so we're in these kind of juxtapositions within our mind with so many different layers going on. And I know I just said a lot of gobbledygook, but my point is when two people enter into the process of dating, and let's take out the word dating and let's replace it with getting to know you. When it's done from an intentional perspective and not a biological perspective or even an emotional perspective, I'm talking from a real pragmatic perspective, then you operate by going, are we really compatible with one another? Like, let's find out if we're compatible with one another, because most humans have this misconception that chemistry equals relationship success. And what we've observed for us dating and relationship coaches out there for the last 20 years is that is the furthest thing from the truth. It's like the broken clock. Yes, it works twice a day, but for the other 22 hours, it doesn't work. In other words, it's a very small.
Yeah, it's not really sustainable, right?
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, because I think this is really the crux of it too, is what is the biggest mistake women make when trying to understand men's desires?
It's interesting. Alison Armstrong, who wrote the book, The Queen's Code, said that women are looking for hairy versions of themselves. In other words, so do I think that's the biggest mistake? I think to some degree, there's elements of wanting to be a man like a woman, but I don't think women actually really think that.
Well, let me take it from this point is, what is it that you have seen has in your previous relationships have been the biggest mistakes that women have made where they didn't understand your desires? Something personal.
I don't know if I want to name. Oh my!
Just in general, like because you've got personal experience here. I think I'd love to hear.
I'm gonna throw myself under the bus for a moment. Then I have a propensity to choose women that are like my mother to some degree. So I don't think my personal experiences is the best indicator of this, because when I say they're like my mother, I've chosen women who I have chosen women like my mother in the sense I've been following what's known as the imago, which the book Harvell Hendricks and Helen Hunt talks about, which is we choose someone similar to both or one of our primary caretakers. And because we are designed to heal that wound with our primary caretaker, that we choose someone like our primary caretaker. And that seems to be my experience for my three most significant relationships. So it's not about them understanding me. It's me recognizing that I am following a pattern in the people I've chosen in my life. And now, okay, let's take it in reverse. Like, how are those women choosing me? I think I'm the opposite of what they experienced, and they're not familiar with their opposite, so they get scared because I'm not like what they expect. Because in their subconscious mind, they're looking like on some level to heal that. So I show up completely different and they're bored with me.
Okay. So
because it's not triggering them actively.
Right. It's not triggering them because I'm suspecting that your mother, they're coming in thinking that you're someone that needs to be cared for, that needs to be taken care of, or that.
No, that's not it.
Okay. So tell me what that's.
No, most of the time I would say that, and I have to be careful because I am a public figure and the people I'm talking about could be investigated. No, I think unfortunately, the women in my life have had some traumatic childhood experiences, real trauma. And because I'm not activating their trauma, they get rather bored with me.
I get it. Okay. So you don't have to elaborate. I get now you're saying that basically because you're evolved and you're healthy, you're a conscious man, that sometimes these women come in and there's not a need being met because of the imago effect. Okay.
Yeah, in other words, their subconscious need is I need you to be a terror because that's familiar to me. And I'm an easygoing kind of, and to some degree, these were all, but again, I can't speak for their experiences. I can only speak to mine. I keep choosing the wrong person because I'm following a pattern. So coming back to your question, what does a woman need to do for me?
Understanding men's desire. Yeah. To understand it. How do we understand your desires better? Men's desires.
So
we're off on.
Well, I think we have to let go of what the man's desire is and what a woman's desire is. I'd rather human beings show up as the best version of themselves. Like one of the fundamental, and I wrote a book for everyone.
Yes.
It's called What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? A Journey of Personal Development, Self-Help, and Spiritual Work. Copy of the book is, you can see right behind me. What I think most human beings desire is an emotional grown-up.
Mm-hmm.
So what does an emotional grown-up look like? First off, they are self-aware. Now, meaning self-awareness is recognizing one's fears, one's insecurities, one's negative judgments of other human beings, how one's actions can affect another human being, their limiting beliefs, their negative patterns that bring them pain. And a self-aware person knows how to shift to love through these, we'll call them negative, but I don't even want to call them negative experiences, even though it might seem that way, because all experiences are designed to help us grow and learn and improve upon ourselves. But a self-aware person is aware of their fears and insecurities at a real granular level. Most humans gaslight themselves, or they do a spiritual bypass over their true feelings. And so I think self-love is almost like knowing who you really are. Like, and self-love encompasses self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence, self-awareness, all of the little facets of self beyond the unhealthy ego. This is part of the healthy ego. The unhealthy ego is oftentimes a little myopic to other human beings. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like so that's the unhealthy part of ego. The other healthy part of ego is a real introspection part. And very few humans actually spend time being truly introspective.
Okay. Because that's
in my opinion. Important. By the way, my opinion.
Your opinion, of course. I agree with you on that. I think it's really important for us to know who we are and to love ourselves. And that's where the boundaries come into play, and the not, really just if someone's not right for us, is making that decision and not staying in something, not accepting things that aren't right. That is the antithesis of self-love. When we are a doormat, that is the antithesis of self-love. And I get that, because I think it's what you're saying then is what really attracts a man or women, I think both, on both sides, is to really love ourselves and to be whole and complete. And it's not about what can we necessarily, I know this is the end of the movie, but it's really about, it's not what we can do to attract, it's who are we being or who are we becoming to attract the partner we want.
Very well said. And for everyone watching, self-love is not a destination, it's a practice.
Heck yes.
It is not. There's an old saying, you have to love yourself before you can love another. It should be tweaked. Ideally, you are practicing loving yourself so you can practice loving another. And I use the word practice because I don't think in this lifetime, I think it takes 1,000 lifetimes to get really good at this. But then I believe in reincarnation, all that kind of stuff. Knowing thyself in the romantic sense would require knowing your triggers. I know what triggers me. For example, I have what's known as an anxious attachment style. So for people who aren't familiar with attachment theory, Jill looks like she's going to pull out a book in a second.
It's awesome.
Attached by Amir Levine and Rachel Heller is a book to understand our primary love attachment styles. Okay. So I'm an anxious person, meaning if I send you a text message and I don't hear from you in 30 seconds, I lose my mind. Okay. Now I'm exaggerating this. Okay. But it means you're mad at me. Or you send me a text message that says K instead of okay. That means you're mad at me. So these are all my triggers. I know this about myself. Okay. I know that if someone, it's usually centers around communication and validation, okay, for the anxious person. So I'm aware of my triggers, okay? So when someone doesn't respond right away, it doesn't mean that they're mad at me and they broke up with me, because that's what the little kid inside of me is thinking. So awareness is knowing your triggers, knowing your attachment style. And
go ahead. I want you to finish your thought.
I was going to say, even knowing like my weaknesses, like I'm not the best social director in a relationship. I just know this about myself. I'm not the best planner of doing things together. So I know my triggers. I know my attachment style. I know my weaknesses. I know these things about myself. By knowing this, you can tell this to your partner and say, hey, this is who I am. Now, not this is who I am, take it or leave it. I'm working on this stuff. But this is who I am. So I make a request, coming back to those agreements and boundaries. Hey, look, it would really mean a lot to me if I send you a message that you respond back in a timely manner, because it helps me feel safer. Okay. Now, I also know that I can send a text message and I could even add, by the way, these are agreements I make with women in my life. I could send a text message, and if I add NR, that means no response required. I'm letting them know that, look, I know that if you don't respond, I'm not going to lose my shirt.
Okay.
That's self-awareness.
Self-awareness. And I was going to ask you, when I guess these trickle out over time as you build a new relationship, to know what your triggers are and to share it with your partner. I think that is something that a very
evolved that shit. I get this shit. I do this right away.
You do? Okay. That's what I was going to ask. And that's where I was almost interrupted you, is when do you do this? And then, because you're literally giving your partner the roadmap of how to love you or to understand you better. And I think this is so healthy. And so on the other side, though, how can women have confidence? Because I think a lot of times if we want to share something without feeling vulnerable, how do we know it's safe? And how do you help them feel comfortable with communicating our needs and our desires like that without feeling like, is it okay? Testing the waters. Is he going to do the same? Or I know a lot of people think that.
And I have mixed feelings with what I'm about to share right now. Okay. But I differentiate between people with depth and people who are not very aware. When I share this with a person who's not very aware, they're turned off by it because it's not attractive. Okay. Because what's attractive is showing up with confidence and being a leader and having your shit together, and all this stuff is confident, right? Mm-hmm. But that's not who I am. That's the mask. Who I am is I'm a human being with insecurities, dare I say flaws. I'm human beings are imperfect by a perception of what perfect is. But that's a whole nother conversation because there is no such thing as perfect.
I have to say that I find that incredibly attractive in a man when a man is willing to share his triggers or things that he feels. There's when men are vulnerable, not whiny, but vulnerable and open, sharing their feelings. That is really a turn on. That makes us feel safe. I think for me, I can speak for women, but for me personally, that makes me feel safe and protected because he's willing to share that with me. And there's a feeling of trust building there.
Yeah. And there's a scale to this. I want to think of like a weight to it. If too much vulnerability could be overwhelming, okay? And not enough vulnerability feels like there's no intimacy being built. So there's a healthy, and you have to be physically attracted to the person because a guy who's vulnerable, but he's not your type, you're going to immediately put him in the friend zone. So the more physically attracted, the more vulnerability you'll accept. Some level.
There's that, but there's also the vulnerability if it comes up in the beginning, like you said, where it's new and the guy's spilling his guts the first date. It's not spilling his guts because
that's not a fair assessment. Yeah,
you're right because it can be a first date, but when there's a lot of chemistry, like connection, and you're on a first date and you're like, oh my gosh, time's going by for hours and you're just blah 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 blah, and you sense it when it's right, when you know. But then there are times I think when it's one way and you know it and you're just spilling it and it's the other person's not there. They're not getting this. Don't you feel? Have you ever felt that?
Oh, I've had both the positions. I'm into them more than they're into me and all that kind of stuff. But usually I was driven by my penis, so I just cared about getting laid. So it didn't matter what was going on. I'm being honest here.
We're gonna get into this. So if you're thinking about not stopping this video, continue because I'm going to jump in a minute here with some other very more fun conversations.
So look, you have to recognize that a man's threshold for having sex is much lower than his threshold to commit to somebody. In other words, our threshold for sex is almost the barrier to entry is the revolving door kind of thing. Our threshold for commitment is like an ironclad fortress, blocked wood, like gate kind of thing. Okay.
You said something on one of your videos or your lives that I loved, and we talked about this is offline is that how women get so many likes on dating apps. And you said 95% of, I think it was something like that, 95% of men that are doing that, if you get it means that they're willing to have sex with you, versus women are liking someone because they see a relationship, not about sex necessarily.
Yeah. Actually, studies on dating apps state that men swipe means I'm interested, or we'll use the term like, 60% of the time, women swipe 5% of the time. Now, there's a misconception with that number. We will sleep with 60% of women, but that doesn't mean we'll commit to any one of those women. It's just our threshold for sex is rather low. Can be. Now, the evolved person, he's swiping right 1% of the time because there's physical attraction. And he's vetting through the process going, she's gorgeous, but I love Trump and she loves Biden. And that's, I'm just making up stuff, or the vice versa. I love Biden, she loves Trump kind of thing. Or I'm an empty nester and she's raising babies, or he's an empty nester. And this goes both ways. The evolved person only swipes maybe 1% of the time at best. Oh, shoot, we were going down a narrative. So coming back to commitment, I think there's a misunderstanding about commitment. Because I think of commitment in 3 layers or levels. Level 1 is monogamy and exclusivity. Okay. A lot of people can commit to monogamy and exclusivity. Okay. Level 2 is teammates. Are we really going to integrate into each other's lives and do it as a teammate? Because I'm happy to get companionship, connection, and sex on a regular basis, and I'll agree to monogamy and exclusivity, okay? And a lot of people, and that's actually known as a casual relationship, okay? Many human beings will experience casual relationships. Now, a lot of women will enter into a casual relationship hoping that it'll turn into that level 2 I just talked about, where teammates, where you're integrating into each other's lives and you're operating as a team. The third level of commitment, which very few couples today, other than those who get married, experience, is I'm all in. Better for worse, sickness and health, richer or poorer. Look, I'm in this with the ride, no matter how ugly it gets, I'm in it with you. Most humans, particularly midlife people, and I speak to a demographic of midlife, which I say is after baby making years and before retirement. So most of the people I speak to are between the ages of 42 and 69. Mostly, I call that midlife. And some people go, 69 is not midlife. I'm like, my father lived to be 99. So in my world, it's midlife. Okay. Midlife people are rather gun shy. They are really reluctant to go all in with somebody. And that's what ultimately, do you want to just be dating every 5 years a new person, or do you want to go all in with someone? I think of all in before I ever meet somebody. I think of, are we really compatible to go all in with one another, understanding the layers that apply to compatibility?
Yeah.
And the founder of Neil Warren Clark, or Neil Clark Warren, actually, he wrote a book. I don't love this book. It's called Two Dates. You could see the 2 dates or less. Like, the idea, his website is, look, there are 25 key points to compatibility. That should be like the first series of questions to ask. But someone's going to say, but Jonathon, if you ask questions, that's an interview. And I'm like, no, you should be interrogating a person before the penis ever goes inside the vagina. There, okay. I said it.
I know, I love it. And this is where I want to get into this, because we're really talking a lot about commitment, so important. And you cover this so much in your channel. And we're going to put the links to Jonathon's channel, and he has the best lives ever. It's so awesome. You can engage, you can participate, you can get in the hot seat. I've done it a couple times, and they're always fun. And you never know what's going to happen. But I'd love to dive into like desire and what are some, let's talk sex. Okay, let's just talk sex. This is what we want to talk about, is women are afraid to express what they want, and they don't understand what men are looking for. I think a lot of times. I've been in a lot of different things. So I've really been studying this for some time, and I find it fascinating. And it's really, my eyes have opened up in the past few years, and it's been so fun. But I'd like to know, for the majority of women that are going, I just don't know what to do. What are some things that they can do to actually feel comfortable? How do they start expressing themselves, and how do they get their partner to be agreeable to that too? Because sometimes they say something and they go, oh God, I don't want to talk about that. So what are some things they can do to really start opening up and having a better sex?
So, okay, let's play with this one a little bit. So you meet someone, you've been dating for a while, you agree to be physically intimate with one another. And a lot of times it isn't agreement. It's usually alcohol induced, and you end up in the bedroom because there's physical excitement going on. Okay, so it's not even agreed upon. It's almost an involuntary, it's voluntary, but it's you're led into the bedroom, and next thing you're doing it. Okay, that's the first time. Sometimes people have great first sex, and sometimes people have lame first sex. And again, I'm speaking to an older demographic where there are a lot of biological challenges going on. Look, I have to confess, I use a blue pill. I don't want to. It's not my desire, but I have to. Okay. And women need lubricant. It's just, that's what happens when we age.
So, I've actually bought Viagra and Cialis for former partners. In Argentina. Yeah. So it's not a bad thing, ladies. Don't knock it.
So next to the condoms, you have the assortment of pills a guy can take.
I have. Which one do you prefer? What strength? No, I'm kidding. You can break those in half. No, stop.
You went down this road. I didn't go down
so
there.
Here's another funny story, because I wanted to talk about this as we're going into this, because here's the next thing is real quick. And as we're going this transition, the journey here, following your journey, is the thing about contraception we don't need at this age, but it's protection. and condoms. And I'm going to tell you, ladies, I'm just going to give my own PSA is that carry your own. The guy will often say, oh, I don't have one. I do. And and so it's really important to always have your own. And here's another tip. Have multiple sizes. I know you said that in your video. And I have a friend, this couple, they always laugh at me because they always say, whenever I meet somebody, they go left drawer, right drawer. And it means because I have 2 sections. So when you're in bed with somebody, I'm gonna have to cut this part out. When you're in bed with somebody and you go, and it's okay, big one or little one or regular size. And then I go grab the one I need. So be prepared. How about that? Is that a hot tip?
I would say most
isn't it embarrassing if a man, if you're, I don't know, I'm not going to ask you what size, but if it's too little or it's too big, it's humiliating for the man. So you want to have both.
I had a woman said, grab the magnums in the drawer. And I realize this whole time I've been using the wrong size, but that's another conversation. So I would say most men at midlife don't want to wear condoms. Most men don't want to. We'll resist it. We'll fight it. And it usually depends on how much trust has been built between 2 people. I would say I'd say for the younger generation, they are so attuned to it that it's second nature for them. For those of us in midlife, that's usually you're going to get a lot of resistance around that, mainly because they were not worried about pregnancy. And men don't seem to care about sexual diseases because you can most of the time get a penicillin shot, which it's not penicillin, it's something else, but it's along those lines. Okay. With that said,
I have men get tested. I have men get tested. I get tested and I ask them to get tested before they're allowed to take it off.
Okay. One of my principles is to be safe. Everyone, whatever safety means for them, I'm a big proponent of that. So if it's getting tested, if it's wearing condoms, whatever makes a person feel safe, I'm a big proponent of that. I'm just telling you the way men typically operate, and there's always the exception to the rule of it's something typical. So I think when it comes to expressing our needs, it's very difficult to do this whether you're a man or woman. There's this almost expectation you're supposed to know. There's this expectation that every man is supposed to be James Bond quality lover, and every woman is going to be as agreeable as the James Bond woman. That's the expectation. So on some level, men desire women who are agreeable to a man's timetable for having sex. Okay, that's what men want, that's what they want from a woman. Now, a woman wants a man to be aware of her mood. A woman wants a man to be not only aware of her mood, that she needs some foreplay to get there, kind of thing. That's what a woman typically wants. What a man wants is sex on his timetable. So that's just the difference typically between men and women. Certainly there are those highly horny women that want sex on their timetable. It's interchangeable between genders, but for the most part, women want men to be sensitive to their mood and to get them in the mood that they're going to do some extracurricular work to get there. And men just want it on their timetable. So
let me ask you this. So for midlife women, especially women that are in menopause and maybe they're adjusting their hormones and they're going through a lot of things, and this is a big issue right now. I'm hearing this from a lot of women, is that they don't always, either if they don't have the desire or they do, or they're going through challenges. How do you feel if a woman said to you, I'm going through these things right now, can you bear with me? Sometimes I'm in the mood, sometimes I'm not. I don't really know what's happening with me. And for them to have one is, how do you feel about it? And 2, how can they approach you in a way that you would feel okay and it wouldn't make them feel like they're comfortable to say, they feel comfortable to say that. Does that make sense?
Sure. No, it makes sense. It's okay. I want to answer your question, but I want to put a little caveat to this. I've been in a circumstance where a woman said, I'm not always in the mood. Okay. And you're in the mood more than me, kind of thing. But it's interesting because she said, I want you to push me anyway, because I might not be in the mood, but once we start, I'm totally up for the game, kind of thing. So there's this, I thought it was an interesting perception on her part. I think, and maybe it was just she knows herself well enough to know that sex doesn't mean as much to her as it used to, kind of thing. And this is what happens when we get older. But she knew it meant a lot to me. So she said, and if it was a clear no, it's a no. But a lot of times the no is just, but it's okay, you push me, because once we're in it, I'm excited about it. So she observed that over a couple experiences with her, and then we had a conversation about it. So she shared with her, so she had enough self-awareness to know who she is. She had self-awareness to know who I was, or at least a perception of who I was. We sat and had a conversation about it. This wasn't in the bedroom. Actually, it was right after sex. We had a conversation about it. So she had a more receptive ear. Asking for your needs, and it doesn't matter if it's the bedroom or not, is one of the most complicated things to teach another human being. It's rather, in other words, it's one of the reasons why there was a book written about this. It's called Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. The reason why it's called nonviolent is oftentimes we communicate with a bit of abrasiveness. It should be titled Compassionate Communication. The premise of this book is to first identify, what need do you want? And what need do you see? I'm going to use the word need several times. What need do you need expressing? Okay. And then doing it in such a way that lands on your partner. First, it comes from the I statement. Okay. Mm-hmm. When you know yourself, you know what you're needing. First, get clarity on what the need is. So the need, like in her particular case, it was like, look, I just want you to know that, well, this, you see, it doesn't apply, because what we're really talking about is I'm not in the mood, and I don't want you to pressure me when I'm not in the mood. That's really what we're talking about. So first, knowing your need, but also being aware of your partner's need too, because that's what this is, a collaborative experience. So it could simply be, Tim, I recognize that you have a need for physical intimacy that probably exceeds my need for physical intimacy. So it's having an awareness and pointing out your partner's need, and say, I have a need where I might not need it as much as you. So how can we both come to an agreement here that meets your needs, but also meets my needs? It was done as a conversation, Jill.
Okay. But how can you, on the other way, how can you create a safe space for men to be able to have them open up in the same way?
So now you're getting, again, very complicated things. So first, leading by example, practicing leading by example in expressing your feelings and your needs.
So that's okay. So it's okay for women to do that and to take the lead in that, and not wait for men. I think what I hear you saying is very key, is it's okay for women to say, here are my needs, and creating setting a thing, and then allowing that open space for men to be able to offer the same. If we wait for men to do it, right, it won't happen sometimes.
But here's the problem. Women have this.
Yeah.
What do women have? What was that? What is this?
Tape over their mouth. They don't speak up.
Duct tape. They're afraid to speak up. Why are women afraid to speak up, Jill?
Because they're afraid of being rejected. They're afraid of
what else?
Of not getting their needs met, of having abandonment, of being lots of things. I think it's
but like mostly is, if I speak my truth, he's going to leave me. That's the biggest fear. For rejection, discounted, dismissed, gaslit. These are all the fears going on. Well, how are you going to build intimacy if you don't start expressing your needs? You can't build intimacy on magic fairy dust that falls from the ceiling. Mm-hmm. So how do we build intimacy right from the very beginning? I said this earlier, we should interrogate people. I'm such a big proponent of that, is actually through those deeper, granular conversations right from the very beginning. By knowing yourself and knowing your strengths and knowing your weaknesses and knowing your desires and knowing your standards and knowing your boundaries and knowing all these things, and then entering in from that premise, you've established emotional intimacy, so that by the time you get in the bedroom, it's no fucking big deal. It's, hey, look, this is how I feel. Like, you don't even have to worry about it, because you did it right from the very first date.
What is a recommendation of a book that you might have that would help us with some of those questions that we might be able to ask and work on? Do you have one?
So my name is right at the bottom here. Google Jonathon Aslay. Go to my website, jonathanaslay.com. Click the coaching button, because this is what I teach in my private coaching. One of the modules in my coaching is called Radical Honesty, Pre-Qualifying Your Prospect. It is actually helping you design the list of questions you need to ask based on your personality.
And we'll drop this link to Jonathon's link. It will be in the show notes.
Okay, so I'm giving a plug to my work. I have a client who I'm working with right now. She's doing my boot camp coaching, and she's dating someone. So I told her today, it was today's session, I said, look, I want you to take all these workbooks, and we're talking about 3 workbooks that probably represent 50 pages of content, maybe, 50 pages of content between the 3 books. I said, you're seeing your boyfriend tonight or this weekend. She already knows, or he already knows, she's working with a coach. Okay. So he already knows this. He's already showed him my videos, and he said, I like these videos. I said, I want you to take these 3 workbooks that we worked on together, and I want you to talk to him about it. I said, one of 3 things are going to happen. He will totally be dismissive, argumentative, and almost hostile in this request to talk about it. That's number 1. If number 1 happens, I want you to walk out the door, close the door, leave, block his phone number, never speak to him again, because he is not a partner. He's not partnership material.
I've done that before.
Number 2, he'll be curious about it, but just peripherally curious about it. And that sounds interesting, but okay. Now that's called a red flag. Okay, red flag. The other one's a deal breaker. This is, you're rolling the dice with this guy on that one. 3rd category, he goes, holy fucking shit, this is amazing. Yeah, this will be fun. Let's do this, because he sees the value in deeper connection. Okay. Most women are afraid of scenario 1, hence the duct tape. Because scenario 1 is requiring you to be in your sovereignty and say, I am not going to go down this train track with a broken engine, a broken, what's the thing that drives a train? The caboose? No, the caboose is the back. The engine, there's a name for it. Anyway, you get the point I'm making.
Right. But so with the 3 things, I love this. And I think the 3rd.
By the way, this wasn't a first date. This is a season. They've been dating for a month. Okay.
Right. Okay. So yeah, it's not first date kind of stuff necessarily. It can be, but it's not necessarily. So the condition of what it is, I think also, yes, I love your content and you're an amazing coach and I highly recommend you. And there are other things too. Would you read this book with me? I'm going to send you a video. Would you like to go through it? You have the Gottman's 8 dates. That's another one. Can we go through these questions together?
8 dates by Drs. John and Julie Gottman.
Yeah. I have a guy that I've been seeing that actually sends me Jay Shetty clips and sends what they're about. So if they're engaged and they're interested, don't you think? It's like this, they're actually wanting to do the work with you. That's the read. I love the distinction. First one is a deal breaker. Second one's a red flag. Third one is the all in.
Yeah, at least you have a greater chance of success with that one. Here's the thing, and I want to be careful with everyone. Just because someone reads Jay Shetty quotes does not mean whatsoever they've healed childhood wounds and adult traumas that makes them capable of being in a relationship. Just because they find a quote fascinating, okay? Just because you give the book Emotional Intimacy by Robert Masters doesn't mean they'll actually read it, okay? Acceptance of the book is not enough, okay? The book 8 Dates is designed to purchase 2 copies. And if you're dating someone, is to read them together as a practice. That's the design of the book. You're talking about I'll be very blunt here. I would venture to say less than 20% of the population would embrace a co-creative, collaborative type of getting to know you experience.
Wow.
We are so traditionally not ingrained in both fantasy narrative, traditional narrative, socialization narrative, biological narratives, all of these things that very few humans actually learn how to date from a heart-centered level narrative. And if there's a book I can recommend, If the Buddha Dated.
Okay.
If the Buddha Dated throws out the bullshit gender rhetoric and says, how can we connect with one another at a heart-centered level? Very few humans know how to do that. By the way, I'm going to say something that's not going to be popular to the women here. I've observed, after coaching thousands of women, and I have over 20,000 hours of coaching, most women don't even really know how to love. And they hear me say this, and I'm coaching them, and they're like, that's the farthest thing from their truth that you would think I spat in their face. Women know how to give. Women are extraordinary givers. Okay. They almost give to a fault. They give as doormats. They do a lot of things that are not productive for them. But to really know how to love another human being, giving is not love. It's a form of love to give, but to really understand another human being, to really understand yourself, to really learn how to recognize what you're feeling and then express it in a way that's seen, heard, and understood, and to really have compassion for another human being. And let's go a step further, to really accept another human being. And by the way, and this has to be reciprocal. Very few human beings know how to do that.
I love that. That is really an eye-opener. That is a serious gold nugget there, because it's women do. We are great at giving. We're great at showing up, and that's our traditional, even if we're more modern, of course, we have the history of giving equals loving. And I think you said in one of the videos recently I watched, you said something about the idea of, even though there's the love languages and gifts is one of the love languages, but is that people think that love is giving gifts, or it's giving something or doing something. And it's not necessarily that. So define a little bit more. Let's go a little deeper on this. What is love in the sense that where it's true love versus just giving? So a woman understands, because this is part of what this topic today is about, how to attract. What is it that men find attractive, irresistible?
There's an old saying that men marry woman hoping she doesn't change, and a woman marries a man hoping he does change. Okay. And I think what that means is, I'm marrying you and you have to look exactly the way you look now for the rest of your life. Okay. I think that's what that means from the man's perspective. I don't want you to change. Meaning, I don't want you to, you were loving and kind and affectionate and feminine and had a great body and you exercise, and I don't want you to ever change. Okay. Women look at men as, you're not very expressive, you're not very romantic, you're not very communicative, and I expect you to change. Okay.
Yeah, I get that.
I think where I'm actually doing a video tonight, actually, coincidentally, that will be different than when you're airing this, but it's called The 9 Love Languages. Ooh. Understanding the Love Scale. And this is new content I'm creating. So there's still an evolution to this new content, because I plan on writing a book around this. And the reason why I have 9 love languages, even though Gary Chapman wrote an amazing book called The 5 Love Languages, and I've heard there's been some revisions to the 7, but I've come up with 2 more, which I'm not going to share today. You have to watch that video. Okay.
Today's June 13th as we record 2024. So you can go find it on Jonathon's channel. We're going to be coming out with this one in
June 13th, 2024. Correct.
Right.
It'll be on my live stream. Okay.
That's right.
So this love scale has several facets to it, and I'll go through it really quickly. So foundation piece is know thyself. That's that self-love piece that we talked about earlier. The next part of the scale isn't, and the reason why this isn't know thyself is knowing yours and someone else's motive. Is their motive for love a short-term strategy or a long-term strategy? Is it short-term or long-term? This is critically important, because a lot of people just have a short-term strategy. Women have a strategy. If we love each other, magic fairy dust will make every one of our differences work out, because that's what magic fairy dust does. The next level is the getting to know you level, which is an intentional investigation of compatibility. This is that pragmatic piece I talked about earlier, the getting to know you piece. The next level above that is commitment, which I've already outlined for you. Level 1 is monogamy and exclusivity. Level 2 is teamwork, and level 3 is all in. A lot of people just experience level 1 commitment. So the pinnacle of this, and this is stuff I'm still fleshing out, is acceptance. Acceptance is one of the highest forms of love. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. So you have differences between you and your partner. You have differences in the way you cook food. You have differences in the way you clean house. You have differences in expressing yourself. You have differences in your desires. Like one might want to travel all the time and one's a homebody. One person wants to ski all day long and the other person wants to read a book all day long. Whatever your differences are. If you are going on the scale of love, you recognize you have differences. Okay. When your partner isn't exactly like you and you have a difference, we have a propensity to resent that person for their difference. That's one possible circumstance. I resent you that you don't clean the house the way I do. Okay. Monica from Friends. Okay. The OCD had to clean everything a certain way. Okay. So the next level of love is tolerance of the difference. I'm going to at least tolerate this. I don't like it, but I'm going to tolerate it. Okay. The next level of love is understanding of those differences. Okay, I understand this person. That's why it's so important to them that they do this thing that way, or whatever it is, that difference. Okay. The next level above understanding is accepting it. I'm going to accept this difference. Let's use the movie When Harry Met Sally. Sally had a very unusual way of ordering food. I'd like to have the meatloaf, but if it has gravy, I'd like to have the gravy on the side. And I'd like to have the Caesar salad, but if it has croutons, I'd like it on the side. And I'd like to have the apple pie a la mode, but if I can't get the pie heated, then I'd like to have cherry pie instead, and blah, 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 blah. And Harry's, oh my God, she is fucking neurotic. Because they ordered food differently from one another. First, the difference. He started to tolerate the difference. He then started to understand why those differences, why she had to do things a certain way. And then he accepted it. Okay? Acceptance. I'm going to get to why I think women fail in a moment. But then we go a step further. He began appreciating her style of ordering food. And then he reached the highest form of love as he adored the differences. He said, you know what? I love it that it takes you an hour and a half to order a ham sandwich. I love it that you think 71 degrees is cold. I love it the way your nose crinkles out every time you get stressed out. I love it that you're the first person I think of when I get up in the morning and you're the last person I think of when I go to bed. And when I realized I'm in love with you, I rushed here to tell you this is what he says at the end of the movie. Differences, tolerance, understanding, acceptance. Where I see most women fail is they're expecting the man to go from differences all the way to he's going to change. Instead of going, wait a minute, we have a difference. He does things different than, by the way, everything I'm saying goes the other way around too, okay? This goes for men. This isn't singular to women. Very few humans really know how to love at that, oh my God, I adore this person for their differences. And by the way, there is a movie called Good Will Hunting where Robin Williams is talking about his wife's picadillos, is what he called it. And he lost his wife. And you could hear him talk about these picadillos saying, I adored her for her differences. He didn't tolerate them. He didn't understand them. He accepted them, but he went further to adore those differences. I could recite the TV show Friends. I said earlier, Monica, each person had a unique difference about them, but that you've all reached a level of adoring those differences. And what I've observed with women as well as men is they don't even get past the tolerance phase. It's always expecting that person to change.
You think that's based on
Thank you for
fear?
allowing me to express myself.
I love that. That is so valuable. And I'm so excited, and I'm going to hold you accountable on getting your book written, because I think that's really important for everyone to get. That's going to be powerful. And so thank you for sharing that. What do you think, though, that men and women, but do you think, why do so many people get stuck and don't even get to tolerance? Is it too easy to find a new partner, or seemingly there's too much choice? Is it we're afraid because
Three-letter word.
What is it?
Ego.
Okay.
Human beings have both a healthy ego and an unhealthy ego. And the unhealthy ego says things have to be my way. I'm right, you're wrong. Most humans aren't really good at real, genuine compromise. And what I mean is, I mean it at a genuine level, like a real level. Not, and when I say compromise, really understand, like it goes back, it's understanding the other person and going, it's okay that we have differences, because the compromise is not really a compromise. It's really moving to a place of understanding, acceptance, hopefully appreciation, and lastly, adoration. But you have to get past that ego part that says, I expect you to be perfect.
Yes.
And everybody says, no, I don't expect that. Bull fucking shit. We expect that.
Yes, and we do. And here's something that when we say compromise, this is where that tolerate, I love this because these are such powerful words. I wrote them down. They're such powerful words. Tolerance and understanding. Oh, I understand the way she does what she does. Okay. But then it's accepting it. I accept that. It's her. And you can see the smirk in my mouth and my kind of the roll in the eyes. And then there's the appreciation. Oh, it's sweet that she does that. It's just her. It's her way. But then there's the adoration, which is, oh my God, I love when she does that. It is so cute. It's just, now the difference when you say compromise is that a lot of times we misunderstand that, and it's giving in. And when we look at compromise as giving in, when we look at compromise as giving in, it is tolerance, and it's a painful relationship because we're giving in, and there's that mental check that goes, I gave that time, I did that. And there's that given, there's that relationship. That's a bartering relationship, is a give to get, which is not a powerful relationship. It's what Tony Robbins calls a level 2 relationship. And then level 3 is or level 1 player is like someone who is all in. Your needs are my needs. We just don't even see it. You're not even looking at it as, I'm tolerating it, I'm understanding it, I'm putting up with it. I'm going to give in this once. I decided he loves that barbecue place. I really hate barbecue, but I went, and next week next week he's going to my French restaurant. Let me just tell you, he's going to owe me. And so that is a painful relationship. I'm being extreme and obviously.
No, I appreciate that.
But don't you see that? I love this, the difference, because really, and how does one get there? It's really letting go of the ego.
I think I didn't clarify something.
Please do.
I have a propensity to do this for everyone watching. So when I say compromise, what I mean is, first off, it's the awareness. So part of a compromise is a trade-off. I get all of these great things here, but it's recognizing I get all these great things here. You know what? This isn't that big of a deal. Okay. And so I'm going to compromise my own expectation of that. Okay. I'm going to compromise my own expectation of this. Okay. In other words, I'm going to give in to my own expectation because my expectation is ridiculously high. Okay. That's the problem with that. So when I say compromise, you are giving in, but you're giving in to your ridiculous expectation over this thing. Okay.
There it is.
You're giving in to love. Okay. And first you have to recognize that I get all these fucking great things here and I'm making a mountain out of a molehill, but no, that molehill is gigantic. It's the Everest of things. No, it's not. It's usually something trivial that we are been out of shape over. Okay. And honestly, if we came at it from that person's point of view, we might actually go, what? That's actually a good thing. That's compromising your expectation is what I'm really talking about.
I love that. Compromising your expectation. That's great.
And there probably is a better word to that. I'm just making this shit up on the fly. I mean, what I mean to say is I channel half the time. I don't even know what's coming out of my mouth, what I say 1 minute to the next. Okay. Real love is really, I think, first, and this is tricky because I think real love is, I think of the word trust when I think of love, but when I think of trust, I don't think of fidelity like in that context. I think this person has my best interest at heart and I have their best interest at heart. In other words, their best interest or my best interest, and it goes both ways. So to me, these are the higher forms of love: is trust, acceptance, compassion, understanding, all these words that are very powerful words, but then actually applying those words to differences.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if you have these words and you say them, but you don't apply them to differences, because it's all about our differences.
Yes.
It used to be for hundreds of thousands of years, we mated within our own tribe. There was virtually no differences other than the biology. There were no differences. For hundreds of thousands of years, you mated within your tribe. There was almost no differences. There was no ideological, fucking, you know the word I'm thinking of.
Ideological.
Ideological. God, I forgot. Ideological differences, okay? There was no political differences. There was no religious differences. There was no value differences. There were no differences whatsoever. By the way, folks, I'm making this shit up right now and I'm going, fuck, I got to write this down. Okay.
It's recorded.
I'm like, this is all new awareness to me right now. It all boils down to differences. There are no two people alike. Now, the more closely aligned you are, the better chance of harmony. My whole coaching practice is about discernment. It's about finding that harmony of alignment, okay? At the end of the day, though, you're going to have differences. And so love is those words we said: understanding, accepting, compassion, care, all these things for the differences. And women are great givers. You guys are beautiful at giving. We love you. By the way, we men are takers because you guys are such great givers. But I will tell you that very few people, men and women alike, really demonstrate love from the understanding, tolerating, understanding, accepting, appreciating, and adoring the differences. There, I said, mic drop, we're done.
There you go. So that is the key to desire. But that's the thing. I think I'm seeing some patterns here, which is great. Is this, first of all, going back to the beginning where we said this is not for, which you can find on Jonathon's channel, is how do I know if he's the three different types of men, the takers, get your card out. Because this is for the guy on the far right. Okay, so he's not if he's a user or a spender, this is not who we're talking about. We're talking about the grower builders and the 20%. So that is the thing. Take a screenshot.
By the way, this is not a fact. It's merely an opinion, but there are three types of people actively dating. The users, which are seeking short-term gain, love bombers, players, gold diggers, entitled people, only care about themselves. The spenders, they seek companionship, connection, coupling, no direction, uncertainty, fearful, usually have a dysfunctional life. They spend time with you, hence the spenders. You're a placeholder in their life. And then the grower builders seek their motivation. They seek long-term commitment. They're emotionally grown up, good relationship skills. They have their act together. Everybody wants a grower builder. Every woman is pining for the grower builder.
So we got to start there before we even go into, because if we're trying to be irresistible and we're trying to find a way to attract a partner, if we're not in that grower builder, not working with a grower builder candidate, it can get very effed up, right? It can get very
you're rolling the dice with your heart.
Yeah, it's a pain. I've been at that 60%. The spenders are.
But by the way, these aren't men. Women are just on. These are three types of people, not three types of men.
Okay. Bring it.
Women are just as much in those other two categories as well, except every woman thinks she's in the grower builder category. And
Oh,
every
okay.
man thinks he's a grower builder. People that know themselves,
Okay. So what is something what is the one thing that women where they're spenders and they think they're grower builders? What's a character trait that we have that we do that give us an example so we know what we're doing.
Okay, first off, it's very flattering to be loved, Bob. Oh my God, you're so amazing. You're so wonderful. I could see I could see us the rest of our lives together, blah, 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 blah. Love bombing it's seductive and it's romantic and people fall for it all day long. Okay. Now you have to recognize that when a guy is love bombing, it doesn't mean he's a bad guy, he's a user or spender. It just means he's unconscious because even I love bomb. And in other words, I will get excited when I feel excitement for someone. Okay. I've learned to temper it, by the way. But with that said, first is just recognizing that when we are experiencing someone's adoration for us very early on, that's deceptive. It's the deception of chemistry, having attraction and romance. Actually, romance. See, that's another thing. Women expect to be romanced. You expect us to climb to the highest room of the tallest tower. It's a narrative you've heard your entire lives in many cases. I think romance should be reserved for couples in a relationship, not as an entry point into a relationship. But that's another conversation. First, you have to know his motive. Is it short-term or long-term? Most men have a short-term mating strategy. They will tell you they have a short-term mating strategy. They're very clear. I don't want anything serious. Then you should say bye. But Jonathon, he's so cute and he's so this and he's so that and he looks good on paper. But he just literally declared with you he has a short-term mating strategy. And every woman, not every woman, a lot of women think I can change him.
Nope.
I went out with this woman once. I go, look, I don't think we're a match for one another, but I'm happy to have sex with you. And she was happy to have sex with me. And I told her, I don't see us a long-term partnership. I think we have differences, but she still continued to see me. And then 2 months later, I go, what do you think's going on between us? And she goes, we're dating. I go, no, we're just hooking up. This was COVID, by the way.
Yeah.
Like she would drive all the way to my place. We'd have sex and she'd leave. And I'm like, do you not realize that all we're doing is hooking up? And she had in her mind that we were dating. By the way, she's since met someone and has gotten married, and I'm very excited for her. Okay.
That's great. But that is a great example is that there's that giving. We will put up with so much with the spenders, which you were being a spender, but you were clear about it. And that's okay. Because you were I wouldn't even call you a spender in that case. I think you were just being honest. And
I was just being,
I wasn't dating her. We have to look at that.
I wasn't dating her.
Yeah, you weren't dating her. So you weren't even on the card. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so it's true. So a lot of times we settle. So that's the first thing is get in the grower builder. Make sure you got the grower builder. Then this whole video will make sense to you. And if you're trying to play this with someone who's in the other two categories, let me tell you from personal experience, the love bombing, we're not going there. The last one I had that you helped me in and out of that one.
Yeah.
Is that it can happen. And you want to just own it. Just
by the way,
yeah.
I think it's important I say to everyone, I don't want to say that I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that experience in the sense that I was being forthright. It was also COVID, and I was really emotional. I think there was a lot of emotional discourse happening at that period of time here in the United States and all over the world that I was emotionally thirsty for connection on some level. And I'm proud I was honest with her, but I'm really not proud of myself because I was coming from a place of selfish needs. I was honest about those selfish needs and she played along into it. If she could take ownership, I don't know if she did or didn't, but I will say to you, I didn't like that I was experiencing this because it wasn't that gratifying at the end of the day. It was nice and pleasant and fun for a short-lived experience, but that's not what my heart wanted. But I also recognize we have this puritanical perception around sex. And I know you're interviewing Susan Bratton soon.
I am.
Who will give us a different perspective. I also think when two grownups want to have physical intimacy, if you're grown up about it, you can do whatever you want in the context of being transparent with another human being. I am a big proponent of that. So if you want to hook up a friends with benefits, a situationship, a casual relationship, if you want to be polyamorous, if you want to be ethical non-monogamy, I think there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. But there's always judgment about those things. And to some degree, I felt like I had to defend myself. I was being in transparency. That is the highest form of integrity in my mind.
I agree. I think it's worse than, and I always appreciate men's profiles on dating apps when they say that too. And they have a category casual, or they have, and it's refreshing because you can at least say, good for you. And there's no judgment in that. It's no problem. Cool. Whatever. And if you're into that and you want that, fine. But if you don't, it's okay too. But it's the when it's masked as something that it's not, or in all fairness on both sides, men and women, is that when we don't know, we think we want it and we just don't know. And we're growing and we're evolving and we still don't have a higher level of consciousness or.
There are a lot of women who have no clue what they want, but they certainly appreciate being wined and dined and will go down that road, but they're still not there are just as many female users as there are men users. I don't like this narrative that it's one side or lopsided.
Okay. So you said the thing you didn't like is when the love bomb, or the thing that's turn off is love bombing. And then that it seems like it's not what women do. What are other things that women do?
Okay. So to go back to what I said before, so just recognize that love bombing can sometimes be a clue of a lack of emotional maturity. And there's a difference. And certainly excitement is different than pressure to have sex. If it's pressure to have sex, that's usually a bad sign. Okay. I said, number two, if their motives are very upfront, I'm not looking for anything serious. When a man says, I want to take things slow, what that usually means is I'll be happy to have sex with you, but I don't want to get emotionally involved with you. That's what that usually means.
And I've watched so many videos because I was in a relationship like that a couple of years ago. And I was looking for the one. I remember Matthew Hussey said, it's like maybe 1 in 10 maybe will change. But do you really want to wait around for that 10% likelihood that he's going to change and want to be in a serious relationship?
Yeah, because when you're talking about when a guy says, I want something.
Or I want to take it slow, or I don't.
Okay, but I'm also talking about when he says there's difference.
Okay, take it slow. Okay. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
So I don't want anything serious. That means I don't know if I want to commit to you. That means I don't know if I want to commit to you, and that's okay. But I'm here to say sex should be reserved for people that are at least exploring a relationship together, and there's an agreement to explore a relationship together. That's the way I view sex, okay? When someone starts having sex with you and then they say, let's take it slow, that's usually code for, I don't really want to get too emotionally involved with you. I don't trust you enough yet. I don't know if I'm good. But that usually, when a man says, let's take it slow without a plan of how to move it, how to make it to go something different to build trust, you are rolling the dice when a guy says, let's take it slow. You're rolling the dice when a guy says, I'm not looking for anything serious.
Good tips.
These are really two of the most top of the list things to be aware of right from the get-go. Sweetheart, I got to get going.
Yeah, thank you. That was it. I was about to wrap it up myself here. I think we've really covered so much territory, and thank you for giving us your insights on what women or what men are looking for. And I think we had great dialogue today. So I appreciate you. Thanks.
You're very welcome. And I want to caveat, it's not about what men are looking for, and it's not about what women are looking for. What's most important is finding it within yourself. That's what matters most in this entire conversation. Finding it with yourself. Who gives a crap what men want? Who gives a crap what women want? I don't care what gender you are. What matters most is what you want. Focus on that.
Beautiful. Thanks, Jonathon. I appreciate you. Thanks,
you.
Everyone. Please like, share, and subscribe, and really subscribe to the channel because it really helped me help other people. This is so important. Jonathon's helping so many. I really want to help this channel continue to grow so we can get more amazing guests like Jonathon and Susan Bratton coming up and others. So thanks a lot, everyone. Take care.